Hi all, welcome to i-tutor Academy. In today's session, we will start with it's a new subject MMPC 0010, that is Managerial Economics. Okay, so in this subject, there is four blocks are there. The first block is Introduction to Managerial Economics, second is Demand and Revenue Analysis, third is Production and Cost Analysis, fourth is Pricing Decision. These are the four blocks under Managerial Economics, and today we will start the first block, that is Introduction to Managerial Economics. So in this block there is three units. The first unit is Scope of Managerial Economics. So we will start with here Scope of Managerial Economics, and unit 2 is the fame, stakeholders, objectives and decision issues, and unit 3 is basic concept and technical. So see, we will discuss one by one these units. So today we will discuss unit 1, and till subsection 3 we will discuss today's session. And this is the Introduction to Managerial Economics block 1. You can read it from your IGNOU study materials, so what all this subject based on and all. Okay, so unit 1 is Scope of Managerial Economics. So what are the objectives of this chapter is understand the nature and scope of managerial economics, familiarize yourself with economic terminology, develop some insight into economic issues, and acquire some information about economic institutions, and understand the concept of trade off or policy options facing society today. So, these are the objectives. And structure, there is introduction, fundamental nature of managerial economics, scope of managerial economics, appropriate definition, managerial economics and other disciplines, economic analysis, basic characteristics, decision making, summary, self assessment questions. These are the structure of this unit. So we will start with the introduction part. So for most purpose economics can be divided into two broad categories: microeconomics and macroeconomics, right? So my macroeconomics, as the name suggests, is the study of the overall economy and its aggregates such as gross national product, that's GNP, inflation, unemployment, export import. That is the base of the economics we will discuss in macroeconomics. And macroeconomics address questions about changes in investment, government spending, employment, prices, exchange rate of rupees and so on. And importantly, only aggregate level of these variables are considered in the study of macroeconomics, but hidden in the aggregate data are changes in output of a number of individual fame, the consumption decision of consumers like you, and the changes in the price of particular goods and services. And although the macroeconomics issue are important and occupy the time of media and command the attention of the newspapers, micro aspect of the economy are also important and often are of more direct application to the day to day problem facing a manager. And microeconomics deals with the individual actors in the economy such as fames and individuals. Managerial economics can be thought of as applied microeconomics, and its focus is on the interaction of fames and individuals in markets. And when you read a newspaper or switch on television, you are hearing economic terminology used with increasing regularity. For a manager, some of these economic terms are of direct relevance, and therefore it is essential to not only understand them but also apply them in relevant situation. Okay, so, the economy is the institutional structure through which individuals and firms in a society coordinate their desire. Economics is the study of how human beings in a society go about achieving their wants and desires. So, it is also defined as the study of allocation of scarce resources to satisfy individual wants or desires, and the latter is perhaps the best way to broadly define the study of economics in general. And the emphasis is on allocation of scarce resources across competing ends, and you should recognize that human wants are unlimited, and therefore choice is necessary, and choices necessarily involve trade-off. And for example, if you wish to acquire an MBA degree, so you must take time off to devote to study, right? And your time has many uses, and when you devote more time to study, you are allocating it to a particular use in order to achieve your goal. And economics would be the most uninteresting subject if resources are unlimited and no trade-offs was involved in decisions making. And there are many general insights economics have gained into how the economy functions. And economic theory ties together economist terminology and knowledge about economics institutions. An economic institution is a physical or mental structure that significantly influence economic decisions. And corporation, government, markets are all economic institutions. Similarly, the cultural norms are the standards people use when they determine whether a particular activity or behavior is acceptable. And for example, Hindus avoid meat and fish on Tuesday, and this has an economic dimension as it has a direct impact on the sale of these items on Tuesday. So this is just example of the economy. Okay. And market is perhaps the single most important and complex institution in our economy. A market is not necessarily a physical location but a description of any state that involves exchange. The exchange could be instantaneous or it could be over time. An exchange which is agreed today but where the transaction take place say after 3 months. And you will learn in this course the myriad functions that markets perform, most significantly bringing buyers and sellers together. And markets could be competitive or monopolistic with a large number of firms, or a small number of firms with a free entry and exit, or government licensing restricting entry of firms, and so on. And the major point is that the firm operates in different type of markets and use the well established principles of managerial economics to improve profitability. And managerial economics draw on economic analysis for such concept as cost, demand, profit, and competition. And it attempts to bridge the gap between the purely analytical problem that intrigue many economic theories and the day-to-day decision that managers must face. And it offers powerful tools and approaches for managerial policy making. And it will be relevant to present here several examples illustrating the problem at managerial economics can help to address. And these also explain how managerial economics is an integral part of business. Demand, supply, cost, production, market, competition, price, etc. are important concepts in a real business decision. Okay. And next is fundamental nature of managerial economics. What are the fundamental natures? A close relation between management and economics has led to the development of managerial economics. Management is the guidance, leadership, and control of the effort of a group of people towards some common objectives. And while this description does inform about the purpose or function of management, it tells us little about the nature of the management process. And Coons and O'Donnell define management as the creation and maintenance of an internal environment in an enterprise where individuals working together in groups can perform efficiently and effectively towards the attainment of group goals. And thus management is coordination activity or an ongoing process, a purposive process, an art of getting things done by other people. And on the other hand, economics, as stated above, is engaged in analyzing and providing answers to manifestation of the most fundamental problem of scarcity. Scarcity of resources results from two fundamental facts, that is human wants are virtually unlimited and insatiable, and economic resources to satisfy this human demand are limited. Thus we cannot have everything we want, and we make choices broadly in regard to the following: what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. Okay, these are the three questions for here. And these three choice problems have become a three central issue of an economy. So here is one figure is here. This is scarcity, three choices: unlimited choice, limited resources, what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. Okay, so these are the main choice problem of the economy. Okay. And in rich countries, markets are too familiar to attract attention, and it's certain or is appropriate. So let us take an incident where a Soviet planner visited a vegetable market in London during the early days of perestroika. They were impressed to find no queues and shortage of mountain of spoiled and unwanted vegetables. They took their host aside and said, "We understand you have to say it's all done by supply and demand, but cannot you tell us what's really going on, and where are your planners, and what are their methods?" And the essence of the market mechanism is indeed captured by the supply and demand diagram that you will become familiar with the block 4 at the place where the curve intersect. A price is set such that demand equals supply there and only there, or the benefit from consuming one more unit exactly matches the cost of producing it. And if output were less, the benefit from consuming more would exceed the cost of producing it. And if output were higher, the cost of producing the extra unit would exceed the extra benefit. So the point where supply equals demand is efficient. And however, the condition for market efficiency are extremely demanding, far too demanding ever to be met in the real world. And the theory requires perfect competition. There must be many buyers and sellers. Goods from competing suppliers must be indistinguishable. Buyers and sellers must be fully informed, and market must be completed. That is, there must be markets not just for bread here and now, but for bread in any state of the world. And what is priced today for a loaf to be delivered to Timbuktu on second Tuesday? So that is the example. In other words, market failure is pervasive. It comes in four main varieties. One is monopoly in market, public goods, externalities, and informations. Okay. In monopoly, by reducing his sale, a monopolist can drive up the price of his goods and his sales will fall, but his profit will rise. So, in publichood, some goods cannot be supplied by market. If you refuse to pay for a new court, the seller will refuse to supply you, and if you refuse to pay for national defense, the goods cannot easily be withheld. You might be tempted to let others pay. Okay, so publichood is goods is there, and externalities, making some goods causes pollution, and the cost is borne by people with no say in deciding how much to produce. Consuming some goods, that is educational, anti-lock breaks, spread benefit beyond the buyer. Again, this will be ignored when the market decides how much to produce. In the case of good externalities, markets will supply too little. In the case of bad, too much. And information, in some ways, the special kind of externalities that deserves to mention separately because of the emphasis placed upon it in recent economic theory. To see why information matters, consider the market for used cars. A buy lacking reliable information may see the price as providing clues about a car's condition, and this puts sellers in quandary. And if they cut price, they may only convince people that their cars are rubbish. And the labor market, many economists believe, is another such a market for lemons, and this may help to explain why it is so difficult for the unemployed to price themselves into work. And when market fails, there is a case for intervention, but two questions need to be answered first. How much does market failure matters in practice, and can government put the failure right? And monopoly, for instance, may seem to preclude an efficient market. This is wrong. And the mere fact of monopoly does not establish that any economic harm is being done. And if a monopoly is protected from would-be competitors by high barriers to entry, and it can raise its prices and earn excessive profit, and if that happens, the monopoly is undeniably harmful. And but if barriers to entry are low, lack of actual as opposed to potential competitors does not prove that the monopoly is damaging, and the threat of competition may be enough to make it behave as though it were a competitive fame. And many economists would accept that an American multinational technology corporation, for instance, is a near monopolist in some part of the personal computer software business yet, and would argue that the fame is doing no harm to consumers because its market remain highly constantable. Because of that persistent thread of competition, the a company price is its product keenly in this and in other ways to it behave as though it were a smaller fame in a competitive market. And even on economic ground, never mind other considerations, and there is no tidy answer to the question of where the boundary between the states, government and market should market do fail because of monopoly, publichood, externalities, lack of information, and for other reasons. But more than critics allow, market find way to mitigate the harm, and that is a task at which government have often been strikingly unsuccessful. All in all, a strong perception in favor of markets seems wise. This is not because classical economic theory says so, but because experience seems to agree, and as stated above, the real world seems to be moving in the direction of placing more reliance on market than on markets. And next is scope of managerial economics. From the point of view, a fame, managerial economics may be defined as economic applied to problem of choice or alternative and allocation of scarce resources by the firms. And thus managerial economics is the study of allocation of resources available to a firm or a unit of management among the activities of that unit. And managerial economics is concerned with the application of economic concepts and analysis to problem of formulating rational managerial decision, and there are four group of problem in both decision making and forward planning. One is resource allocation. Scarce resources have to be used with the utmost efficiency to get optimal result, and these include production programming and problem of transportation, etc. And how does resources allocation take place in a firm? And naturally a manager decided how to allocate resource to their respective use within the firm, while a stated above, the resource allocation decision outside the firm is primarily done through the market. And thus one important insight you can draw about the firm is that within it, resources are guided by the manager in a manner that achieve the objective of the firm. And inventory and queuing problem and pricing problem, investment problem are there further. Okay, that is the scope of managerial economics. Study of managerial economics essentially involves the analysis of certain major links subjects like the business fame and its objective, demand analysis, estimation and forecasting, production and cost analysis, pricing theory and policies, profit analysis with the special reference to break even point, capital budgeting for investments, decision and competition. Okay. Demand analysis and forecasting help a manager in the earliest stage in choosing the product and in planning output levels. A study of demand elasticity goes a long way in helping the firm to fix prices for its products. Theory of cost also form an essential part of the subject, and estimation is necessary for making output variation with fixed plans for the purpose of new investment in the same line of production or in a different venture. And the firm works for profit, and optimal or near maximum profit depend on the accurate price decision. And the theories regarding price determination under various market conditions enable the firm to solve the price fixation problem. And control of cost, proper pricing policies, break even analysis, alternative profit policies are some of the important techniques used in profit planning for the firm, which has to work under condition of uncertainty. Thus managerial economics tries to find out which course is likely to be the best for the firm under the given set of conditions. Okay, so this is about the basic of managerial economics. So far we discussed scope of managerial economics and fundamental nature of managerial economics and just introduction for managerial economics we discussed so far, and for further subsessions we will discuss on next video. And for more MBA series, you just do like, share and subscribe our channel. Thank you so much.
i-tutor Academy presents IGNOU MBA Complete Syllabus Coverage Classes for individual students, semester-wise subject with online flexible timing. For more details, contact on +91 623 827 1885